the social media and letting somebody else tell the story, it's not always accurate. It's not always, so then we, the government, Town Council, need to do these more often so we can have a personal reach. But unfortunately, we have not had, unless there's something real crazy going on, we don't have a huge participation. And that's not the way it should be, but that's the way it is. And so today we'll take some time to talk about whatever's on your mind. Now, Ms. Parson gave you a card. So if you got something on it, Ms. Parson, you come collect those, please, so I can make sure. Because I want to address everything that's on your mind, and I think that's where we're going to start out before we get into the presentation. And I'll be able to let you know that it's a part of the presentation or it's not. But we'll talk about it. We'll talk everything from our means of communicating. We'll talk about the grants, things, projects that are ongoing. We'll also talk about, we're going to get into what's going to happen this upcoming election, not the candidates, but what else is going to be on the ballot that's going to impact Andrews. And then we'll go back in history on that particular subject to talk about those things that we're still affected by. So again, as I review this thing in terms of how we communicate, we now have our official website. We haven't had a website in forever. So that is, let me make sure I got it right. That is www.townofandrews. That's probably where Mrs. Wilson going now. Well, she'll get there. You don't have to go there. So the bottom line is we have a website and we have some other means of communication. We also have a person now that we call our outreach person. It's kind of a dual-headed position that they will work with the community and be more active out there to bring things back to us. Now, a lot of that is on the council as well and myself, because we're at large. I believe that's the case. So we don't have districts where if there was a district, then that person will go to that council member or myself. So right now it's who you know, and that's how they bring information to you. That's not good. So anyway, anybody can call anyone, but this person will work as that liaison. Of course, we have our monthly town meetings, which is every third Thursday at 6 p.m. at the magistrate's office or the sheriff substation, right across from the library. Every third Thursday, 6 p.m. It may change once or twice a year, like the last one we had was not on that day because some other things are going on. We have to change it around, but routinely, that's when the council meeting happens. We also now have in progress a comprehensive plan that captures all of the things that we've laid out, the things we've done, and it kind of shows us where we want to move the town in what direction. And that's from economic, your economy, housing, whatever the case may be. We got some smart folks out there putting this stuff together so we can have a guide that takes us out 10, 15 years, if not 20. And probably the most popular, but not popular, every Tuesday night at 8:30, I'm also on a podcast. It's not my podcast. It's not Andrew's podcast, but it is called Andrew's the Podcast. And we try to cover subjects that is pertinent to the town and some other things that go on. We talk sports and that kind of stuff, but it's another means to communicate. And oftentimes now that we will bring on a guest to talk about things that, again, that can help people move forward. So all I ask tonight, as a part of your participation, is everyone to be civil about what we're about to discuss. Some of it is going to be comfortable, some is going to be uncomfortable. That's just the way it is. That's the world which we live. And I'm okay with that, but it's a way to do that so we can all remain, leave here and probably go and have chicken wing at Rob's a little bit later. Okay. So we don't want anybody leaving here with hurt feelings, but just understand this is not an easy business. Government, I don't care what level, it's tough stuff and you have to make tough decisions. And sometimes the results are what you want and sometimes it's not. But I will tell you, none of it happens overnight. That's just the way it is. So again, we'll briefly. Is that better? I'll try that. Okay, we'll also talk a little bit about get questions about the truck access in and out of town. I'm getting beat up a lot about that. We'll talk about that piece of it. We'll talk about water and sewer concerns, ongoing projects, and the capital project sales tax that's upcoming here in the election. So this is where we are. Next slide, please. Okay, and unless you want anything in detail, the bottom line is our budget is set for this year. Our budget year is from July to June, and it's reset. This year, June the 1st, we have our new budget. I think it's 3.9 million. We're always under 4 million. You know, that's how much that's the best we can generate. But as we continue to cut down on some of our maintenance challenges, reduce some of these lift station, those things that you know consume a lot of our budget, then you'll start seeing things go up, or the budget goes up, and that money go back into the other department. Right now, and it has been for since I've been here, is that we're having to take some of the neighborhood of $250,000 out of the general fund to supply the water and sewer. And water sewer is an account that you can only use those monies for salaries and things to maintain the system. And we all know we own our water and sewer, so we got to keep that up again, you know, for all the obvious reasons. But the budget is set, and so we're looking pretty good there. Audits, all of our audits, all come back in positive, and so we don't have any challenges there. So that part, the things that we are required in terms of managing our monies and putting it in the right place, that has not been an issue. It's not a lot of it, but if you apply it smartly, we won't have major. It's not a lot, but you got to put it in the right place. A lot of times, those monies are used for matching funds that go towards grants, and you'll see here in a little bit. You know, we've been pretty successful in getting grants to help maintain our water sewer system. Okay, but that's where we're kind of applying. We leverage all of the money we can get from the state and federal to do the work we need to for our water sewer system. Next slide. Did we get the cards? No questions? Wow. Not my military buddy. I know he had a question. You just stopped by the house and fussed me out. Public safety. Okay, again, when we talk public safety, we're talking about our first responders. We know we have our fire department, which is all volunteer. We have one of the firefighters is a part-time, that's the chief. Very little we pay them, but they do a lot. Those guys are pretty stretched out. They're covering at least 6 miles, sometimes a little bit further, 6 mile radius of the county's area. And they're doing everything from responding to a baby being born in a bathtub, literally, to someone having, you know, one was a day, I believe, something about some pain or something like that. So they're all over the place trying to close the gap between person getting help and where the ambulance are. So we know. So the other part of that, with respect to what they do and covering down a lot on the medical stuff, we all know that the ambulance is still where it is. That hasn't changed, and so that has not helped us at all. Those are the things that we have to address with our county council people and the folks up in Georgetown, that they control those. And we're just at the mercy of the county on that, in that respect. We have our police department. We have Major Chandler in the rear back here as a part of the public safety and protection of the town. And so they were doing well, going to the department, her Chief Cockrell, and they were up to 7 officers. A couple had the challenge to get through the academy, so they're back down to 4 now. But again, they'll continue the recruiting piece of that. And if you think they're not effective, I invite you to the courts every Wednesday, or the first Wednesday of every month, I should say. And so they are so effective now, they're having to go to 2 days of court. And that's getting people not picking on the residents, but getting them to slow down. I mean, we got speeds up to 70 miles an hour through the town. Guys burning out and doing those kind of things that is popular all over the country, but it's not safe. And so they're out addressing those things. And I'll talk briefly about the trucking situation in a little bit, but they're enforcing that. They have to, because the roads belong to the state. Those laws that tell them at every entry into Andrews tells them they're going to have to go around. One trucker that was stopped recently actually said that the reason he comes through Andrews is to avoid DOT on the bypass. And so then I'll show you a slide here in a minute that kind of talks to one of the reasons why, other than it's a law, the other reason why they should not be coming through the town. But again, the PD is doing well, working really hard. The major and the chief are out there patrolling just as much as the other two young officers, and they're doing a great job. So I'm very proud of what they're doing. So this is an actual shot from North Morgan. So right across from the little Smurf, that's what the underground, you see that metal plate? So anytime all of our water and sewer lines are under the road, that's just the way it is. Now the law has changed where when you install these new things, you got to put them on the easement. We've only got one road that is in compliance, and that's the one, the new road on Beach Avenue. So now all those water lines are on the side of the road where between the pavement and where the sidewalk is. But this, and it was a service line that goes to that house across the street that had a constant flow of water that washed that road out in the middle. Now we have 70 tons, probably 90-ton trucks coming through the city. And that's all it takes for that truck to cave in or go through this hole, and then all things go bad from there, especially when it's carrying this heavy load. I don't have to explain that part to you. So this is why, other than the law, this is the reason why we have to enforce that, because it's a safety issue. We talked about it before. There's a power box at the intersection of Main and Morgan that was knocked down several times because they're trying to turn off of Main coming back up towards Town Hall. It's not wide enough for these big trucks. They clipped a pole up there at the intersection of Beach and Main, severed it in half a couple of years ago, and kept going. We have not been able to be in the right place when one of these things happens, so it's always after, so the person's not being held accountable. So this is serious. Now, this is not just on North Morgan, on South Morgan, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well, that you can see divots from the intersection of Main and Morgan all the way down past TD Bank. That's not by design. That line is failing. And so fortunately we have a grant now that's going to replace that water and the sewer line, but we having to go through the whole procurement process. That's mandated. We can't speed that up. And Ms. Wilson will talk a little bit about that, where we are in that process. But we have multiple grants out there. But again, as it pertains to the safety of the roads, it is not designed for heavy trucks. So the question becomes, how do we accommodate the folks who, because trucking industry is one of our largest employers. So then how do we accommodate or give access to the people that lives here? And so one of the things I've been talking to the chief and major about is that they're gonna have to figure out how to get probably it's an agreement. If they can bobtail, it's not an issue. So you drop your trailer, if you get an agreement with L&L or somebody that has a large stock of land up there at the fuel depot, then that would be reasonable. But because you're trying to save a couple of dollars or avoid DOT, it's not enough for us to get lax and allow you to do that. Now, with respect to those delivery trucks that go to Food Lion and Piggly Wiggly, there's a designated area those guys go in and come out, and it's no issue. And it's not the guys that are local we have a lot of issues with. It's the ones that's passing through, really. And so we're trying to work through that. I've been in contact with DOT. We want to have another forum. If we could have managed it, we would have had them here tonight, but that's not the case. Okay, next slide. Any questions stop me anywhere along if you have a question, I'll try to address it. With this slide comes a picture, and that's my old lazy work. But the black lines and the green, the red is what roads that were already having problems, and we've identified them to be fixed. The large red one up there is actually Beach, so that's now going to turn black once I go back and update the slide. The dotted one going south is actually Morgan, and that'll stay that way until that road is repaired. And the other dotted line is up on Elmwood that goes right by Ms. Deborah Wright's house going to the railroad track. That's the chopped up road. And that road will probably get some attention now because there's another project already scheduled to take place on Magnolia. So if we can get them to do extra stuff, we'll try to improve that. And the other opportunity is probably to go through CTC and see if they can resurface that road. It's pretty chopped up there. And I know there's others, but all the dark black roads are the roads that have been paved in the last 8 years. Rosemary right now is now getting paved. You see the new sidewalks in there? See the new sidewalks that's along MLK? I'll tell you, that's DOT work. So we can't take credit for it. That's DOT work. But what I would hope is that they would consult us before they start, and we can point them in a direction where the roads are worse than what they are. Now, Rosemary's chopped up really good. It's bottom line. We were hoping that we could get in there and fix some of those lines before they paved, but that's the timing that didn't work. But that would have helped had we known early on. So when we learned that they had these roads lined out, it was already too late. It was in the queue. The other thing that's happening here is in the upper right, your left, is that's the intersection at Ebenezer and County Line Road. So on the 24th of January this year, we finally got approval that they're going to put a beacon light there, not a full traffic light. So you saw early on when they came out and did some markings out there. I'm not so sure what that was, but there's a beacon light going to that location so people can see it, what they learned through, I guess, through their study. But we already know a lot of the crashes coming from south to north along 41. And if you drive it and you're looking for it, you will see the light down at 521 and not even pay attention. So it just get it. And you talk to Mr. Mike Moore at Fuel Depot, they'll show you, they capture all of that stuff. And those are some of the things that help us convince them that this has to happen real soon. Now, it's 7 months into this thing and it hasn't happened yet. And so it's time to nudge them again on this. But that's a big deal. That's been one of the concerns for a very long time. And they were telling us there wasn't enough accidents. They didn't have enough data to say that this was important. But I can tell you personally, it is. Mr. Johnson, I have a video for him that he almost got whacked. I almost got whacked. My father almost got whacked. So there's enough data. They just have to move on it. And hopefully they will do that soon. Okay. So we'll talk a little bit about these things.
Good evening, all.
Come over in front of the camera.
Yeah, come over that way. I just need to get to the right spot. So we won't address all the grants that we've received over the years, but we will touch on what we are dealing with currently. And at the very bottom of the screen, and it should be H, but it's South Carolina Infrastructure Investment Program, approximately $7 million that we've received for various projects, to include what the mayor talked about earlier, the South Morgan water and sewer improvements that need to happen there. We have our airport station upgrade. That is a DHEC mandate that we need to take care of. We have several manholes that we have done since 2015, but we have over 400 manholes that need to be addressed. And they're at various stages, from severe, high, medium to low. We have to address what's called severe first, and it's about 69 of those. That is another DHEC mandate, and that's going to come up in this round of funding. We actually have a report that's due to DHEC to identify those manholes again, because unfortunately there was a firm that had done some work for Andrews, but they weren't the most honest brokers. So a lot of time and energy was wasted. A lot of time and resources of the Citizens Fund was wasted because this organization did not do its proper due diligence. They just wanted to put documentation together, but they did not care about the product that was sent out. So telemetry on our water wells and tanks, that is called a SCADA system, and that's for them to communicate with each other. Right now, everything is done manually. And a well cannot operate more than 16 hours at a time. When I first got to Andrews, we had one operating well. Now we have 3. But that well ran 24/7 for approximately 10 years. So in 2014 and 2015, we were able to get 2 more wells online. And right now, what we want to be able to do is that when one reaches its peak time, it automatically communicates with the next, and so on and so forth throughout its cycles. We have valve upgrades and installations in our water system, and that has to do with isolating our system in the event that you have a water leak, that you can isolate a particular area of the location, and you don't have to worry about the entire town not having service or an entire half of town not having service. It will just be that particular area. But also making sure that our hydrants have the necessary connections that they need as well. And then water meter upgrades. We've been working on that program for quite some time. But out of this particular source here, it will have what's called an AMR system. That's an automatic reading system, to where it's a radio frequency. You just do a drive-by, it cuts down on the reading time, picks up the reading, downloads them, and they're ready to go. It also eliminates the cutoff period as well. It automatically turns off any tampering. So if somebody's tampering with the system, we automatically get an alert, automatically turns that service off. If somebody's delinquent, these accounts are already flagged, they're all disconnected at one time. There's not a back and forth about, oh, they didn't come to my house and turn my service off, or I don't have to pay the reconnect fee because they did not get there yet. Everything is automated. So that covers the SCIP funding. What we did do in 2013 was a water modeling grant, and that's a full mapping assessment of our entire system. And thankfully, we did this without realizing what would come along, and we all know about the horrific fire that happened on Main Street. And one of those areas just 2 blocks over, you would have not, if that event had happened 2 blocks over, that entire block would have been gone. So thankfully, it happened where it happened, but this water model, we were able to determine where some deficiencies were in the system. And out of that, you will see a little bit later in this presentation that we have put together some funding requests to the tune of about $2.3 million to address those deficient areas. South Magnolia sewer improvements, that's a $250,000 project for a small section of sewer line and about 4 manholes. And as you can see, just a small portion of water and sewer service is very expensive. We received approximately $20,000 from the Donnelly Foundation for our downtown master plan, and we'll share some slides from that later. But out of that downtown master plan, Duke Energy has presented us with $6,500 to do some banners and poles and wayfinding signage. Downtown master plan, Mayor.
Okay. Okay, so again, it's like the comprehensive plan. We didn't have anything on the website. We didn't have any of that stuff. This is something else that we didn't have. We didn't have a vision plan. And so obviously this comes first. It's kind of brought in an organization out of Arnett Motor out of Greenville to do a complete assessment, talking to people. We have about 10 working groups, and from school, business owners, property owners, all those folks are part of this thing. Is that what do you want Andrews to look like? What can Andrews become? We know it won't become, in Greenville or Columbia, but we have some uniqueness here that will make us a thriving community. And so these guys went, this young lady and the guy went through this whole process, talked to a lot of people, and kind of laid this thing out. I won't go through all of it, but I'll touch on some of the things. this downtown master plan, and it includes revitalization of Main Street. So a lot's happening. I don't know if you haven't paid attention. I know sometimes we'll go from home to the grocery store and back home, or we'll go to Georgetown, and sometimes we don't get off the main road. But we'll talk a little bit about those things that you don't see or haven't seen yet. Again, this kind of lays it out, and we're very fortunate that we got some money earmarked, kind of sort of, that's been approved for the first phase, $2.4 million to help us with our assistance with our Main Street. Ms. Wilson, give me that look. With our Main Street, not everything, but Main Street, to kind of improve that valorization, that's kind of out there. Not in hand yet, still got to go through several levels of approval, but prayerfully that will come through. But this is a part of it, kind of showing us what it looks like now, because we have some really nice historical buildings here. We don't want to tear them all down. You'll see there's been a huge effort to get some of these old dilapidated buildings down and begin that process. Next slide. Okay, now you know that's familiar. That's what we were talking about early on, about where that box is over there under the South Carolina sign. That was that power box that kept getting knocked down by the truckers. But little things like this kind of bring Main Street to life. And some other things, and we'll bring someone in that helps us fully develop that. Part of that process will be some of our citizens as a part of that committee. So, I apologize, I fail to recognize Councilman Stamper, Rob Stamper is here, and Ms. Angie Anderson, Councilwoman Anderson here. She's going to be a part of that. She likes doing that kind of stuff, bringing the community together. And so Ms. Angie certainly will be leading some of this effort to help pull this thing together. Just little things like this is what we envision some of our alleyways. So Andrews, we own all of the alleyways that run north-south. And by admitting that, yes, we have not maintained those either. So they're heavily overgrown in many of the areas. But the ones that run right by the library, which one is this? Oh, that's by the laundry. That's not the one. So the one by the library, there's plans that runs from Town Hall. So the idea is you can walk from the new building once it gets built, or the old one, through the alleyway, stop along those ways, there's benches, nicely paved or concrete road, by Super Chick on down to Railroad Bed Park. And you can do that at several places. Over by where the gazebo park is, it's the same concept. And again, that'll be fully developed as we go along, but that's the concept now. Next slide, please. Now, part of that cleanup, so that's just kind of the idea of the big thing going on. Part of this cleanup is the code enforcement. I know many of you know Ms. Joyce Williams, and she's our code enforcement officer. And some love her, and some love her a little bit less. But she's doing a wonderful job. Again, thanks to the council, we all pulled together and got these ordinances in place. So we're serving as the homeowners association. So we got to enforce that because nobody wants their neighbor to have broken down cars, high grass, things all over the place that's devaluing your property. And believe it or not, that's what people look at when they come in and start, they want to buy. Today, for example, a couple came in today from Tennessee, Kentucky. And this is ironic, but this is actually a property that was this way. Now it's all cleaned up. That's the property they bought online. I guess there was some auction going on and they bought that online. They showed up today. I heard them talking to Mrs. Taylor, and I said, well, let me see if I can help them out. And we talked about that. But that's the effects. Next slide, please. That's the old Blunt building. It's now gone. Right beside it, there were ice house. Now, haven't been publicly announced yet, but I think there's an interest. There's some people are showing interest in purchasing that. And I haven't seen the paperwork yet, but that entire block that they have plans for. So, as we have these engagements, we always try to encourage our folks on the local level. And don't wait because people will come from the outside and start buying this thing up because they now know, like this couple, they just went online. And to this moment, I don't know where they found this thing to bid on it, but they're coming here.
It's called the Masters in Equity, and that's online with Georgetown County. It'll tell you about all properties that are for sale.
Okay, so Masters
in Equity.
In Equity. Online. If you're looking to purchase property cheap,
Georgetown County's County's website.
Georgetown County website. And that's where they found him. They said they were coming, going to Folly Beach a lot. They got 6 kids, and, you know, they travel. I said, well, all the kids out of the house, they want to move closer to the beach. They don't even know. I mean, they just bought this thing. It's out of the blue. In fact, the wife was giving the guy some hard time because he was sitting at work. He's an EMT firefighter, and nothing was happening. He just started searching, and he found this and purchased it. The whole point of this thing is that we got to get it cleaned up and make it appealing for people to come through it. And so that's the old house on Farm, not far from where I live. It's gone. This house off the beach, close to where my good friend Mr. Mays lived, and it's all gone now. And that was an eyesore, so those things are gone. We just don't have the after pictures right now. But if you go by, all that stuff is gone. Next slide. Okay, so as we transition here now, those things are happening. And if you ever paid attention, the old Barano service station is getting cleaned up. The gazebo, the beautiful park there, was once raw hardware. So things are happening now. People are coming in. Little Caesar Pizza, it's going to be here. You know, again, these folks, these are business owners, they got to go through this thing in whatever steps it needs to. Anytime Fitness is now open, and I think August sometime is when the Mexican restaurant, which bought out Antonio's. And it also has, I think, what's the name of it? Archero? Yes. Everybody manages goes to the one in Georgetown, so those people are here now. They're getting it remodeled and getting it all set to open, and so they're moving along. We're going to talk. So this is probably the most contentious, as we talked about earlier. We're doing well, placing our funds that we generate in the town of Andrews to go to the place where it's supposed to. We're doing well in that regard, but when you have to partner and rely on others and you don't control the funds, things happen. Now we're going to talk a little bit that before we get into anything with the lawsuit, it will be very minimal. Mr. Carter, our attorney, is here to talk, you know, again, to keep me out of trouble from getting ahead of myself. But we need to talk about these things because to some degree, obviously it has an impact on the community. And so part of this forum, the good, the bad, and the ugly, we need to talk about so everybody won't be surprised as things begin to unfold or hide together. We need to talk about those things. But right now, on November this year, it's not just about the presidential election. That's going to happen. What we need to be focused on is what's happening that's going to impact us every day. Your local government, the 3 of us and the other 4, and what's happening at the county level. And as we all know, we have 2 county council members right now. 2 are on the ballot this year. But equally, as it pertains to this, there's a capital project sales tax referendum that's going to be on the ballot. And also a local option sale tax is going to be on the ballot. And I'm going to let Ms. Wilson talk about it because I don't know all the details. But I will give you, and I'll come back and talk about the pending lawsuits we have right now. But those things that you have to vote on, and what it means simply is that if these 2 referendums pass, 2 cents out of every dollar you spend on most items, not every item, on most items, a penny will come out of that and go into a pot to go towards projects similar to what we're talking about in a little bit. So we got to pay attention to that. So this ballot is going to be pretty long when you see it. And so we're going to have to get educated on how these things work, because you can go in there and not and overlook that. I don't know. It's just not the same as you would when you go down just voting on candidates for these various seats. So, Ms. Wilson,
Do you want to go ahead and talk about the capital project sales tax piece?
Yes. Which one? This one? Okay. So these 3 or 4. I mean, 1, 2, 3. One got cut, right? One got cut. So where we are right now, the way this process works, and it should have worked. This happened again back in 2014, before probably any of us been a part of the town council, other than, I don't know if Ms. Parsons was there. But the bottom line is the way this thing works, they have to form a committee, the county, and they call that, that committee that goes out and pull all these things together, get all these ideas and structures, from the various entities. So what do you want Andrews, for example, to be funded through these dollars? And then we get together as a council and hopefully some input from the people, but basically, really a lot of ours is based on what we know the higher needs are, which is the infrastructure. And so these are the projects that we all, through that process, decided that this is what's important to us, and this is what we submitted to the commission. And so you can imagine the entire county that this commission had to, they did it right, in my opinion. They went around and spoke to the people, laid this process out and says, okay, Andrews, here's on the 4 or 5 that we submitted, here's what came out. So as Ms. Wilson spoke earlier about the water modeling outcome improvements, that's $2.2 million to get that fully ready for fruition. The grant match fund, which is from the STIP, so we already have that STIP grant in hand. But there's $652,000 plus that we, as part of the match that we put into it. So anytime you get money from the government, in most cases, you're gonna have to put some skin in the game, either 10%, 25%. In this case, this is what we did. Now, a part of this capital project sales tax, they said, well, we can apply now to get that money back and apply it to anything else we want to. So we thought that was important. So that's on the list. And I guess it's the first one's number 4 of 22 projects, a total of 22 projects they locked in. The first one's number 4, which I seen the numbers have changed, it was 3 and 4, now it's 4 and 5. Okay, you gotta watch this, a sliding scale. So the grant match, number 5, we're on to receive that money back. And then there's a storage facility in Public Works and Fire Department. So and we got it at $1.3 billion. So if you are familiar with the fire department, the Public Works facility off of Morgan, North Morgan, everything down is dilapidated. We have 2 new blue buildings. One housed 2 of the 3 trucks for the fire department, and the other one have really just the supplies and tools and those kind of things for Public Works. So right now, Public Works, the action guys are doing the hard labor, have nowhere to even go to the bathroom because that whole building is falling apart. The only portion of that building is good is where the maintenance bay is. But that's kind of risky because the rest of that building has been tested and it's full of, black mold, all kinds of things that affect your respiratory. So then we don't allow them to be in that for long. But when it's cold, that's the only place they can go. That's where these men and women are. We have a responsibility to keep everybody safe. We talked about public safety earlier. We have a responsibility, and right now that is not a safe place for them. So that became our 3rd priority. And again, $1.3 million for that. And then a contingency project is a stormwater improvement. Now this project was already funded through FEMA, which county had the lead on it. They got it all done. They had about $4 million. But by the time they went through the whole procurement process, the bids came in much higher. So I don't know the details right now where the $4 million is, but that project, which was going to alleviate the flooding, about 70% of the flooding we had in Andrews, because when we went through the water modeling tests or process a few years ago, they identified eight areas in the town, and most of them are in residential neighborhoods where they would flood out. So anything since the 2015 1,000-year flood, it doesn't take anything down to flood these folks out. And so, again, we were very fortunate partnering with the county. They did all the legwork, went through the whole thing, got the money, but it has stalled now for the last 18 months. And so we said because it's important, we would use one of our potential slots to go ahead and apply for that money. But I believe it ended up in the contingency because they may go back to the county and say, okay, use some of your funding or some grants or something to make up the difference, which would make sense. That's kind of, and you see that it says county, it's a county's project, but it's going to affect energy. And when this thing is in place, you'll see a new outfall, meaning that all the stormwater will go out behind the rec center, behind the old Weldon building, where the ambulance used to be. all the way south down past Myrtle Road, behind those beautiful homes down there, right on out, and reconnect with the existing stormwater outfall. We have 2 exits right now, and it's all parallel alongside the railroad track. But the problem is, it was not maintained. So between not maintained by state, all ditches, all stone drains belong to the state. And county in some cases too. And so when those things are grown up, the water can't flow. And so it stops that. So this third one is going to catch the water that's built up. Again, part of the results of the study that says this will alleviate about 70% of the water problems around these homes. But those things still have to be maintained. And unfortunately, one of the houses on the northern outfall, a resident sits right there. There are 5 manholes. He's supposed to talk about 400, 5 of them is right in his yard. So anytime that there's a flood, he gets raw sewer in his yard. Because where his house is the one of 2, well, the only one now, because of some damages to the other pipe. That's the only way now for all of the sewer in the town of Andrews funnels through those pipes to go to the, I call it the catch basin. There's a technical term for it. Right through his yard. And so that's important that we get this thing fixed, because it's a health concern. Next slide. Any question on this? Yes, sir.
On that contingency that you're talking about, if in fact the county does decide to allow that to be part of their project, will they allow us to, if we have another project that the town could utilize funds, since we have that on our list, will there be a chance to possibly put something else or a priority for the town in that position?
I didn't think about that, but I would hope so. But the only reason, and that's catching the looks there. The thing is, it's a little, yeah. And the reason she's saying that, because the rules have changed from 2014. Go ahead.
I won't say the rules have changed. We just checked them on the rules. They are following the rules now because they failed to do what they were supposed to do in 2014 as to why we filed the lawsuit. This is the process they should have followed in 2014.
That makes sense. So what she's saying is that now that everybody's watching, because it's not just Georgetown County, but there was Horry County, Richland County that got these monies. And Richland County had, I think it was 12 years, and they had multiple millions of dollars that the council decided that we're going to hire this firm or whomever, pay all this money to. But it's very clear with these dollars.
They had $1.1 billion.
$1.1 billion that they collected that should have gone to roads and things that the people voted on, that says these are the things that we want. And they took it upon themselves. I don't know what did they miss, but the law says that these penny sales tax money have to go what was voted on. And so they got in trouble, went through that whole process, and basically what we're going through right now to get, and so that $1 billion, they're going to have to pay it. They're going to have to put it back into the pot. Now for Richland County, it's a big old, very rich.
Drop it in the bucket.
It's a bucket, drop it in the bucket. Especially after I was talking to my friends from Rock Hill, they said their budget is $300 million. I didn't know that. You can do some things with that, but that's how critical. So I would say we ask, because I think some of the other projects like the dredging, is it Wynyard Bay dredging? Yeah. That one fell off, but there's $6 million that's sitting in there right now still. 10 years, that could easily go and finish what was started here, but that'll come up with it later. And so they said that's 6 of 19?
Of the contingency list.
Of the contingency.
So there's the regular list and
22.
then the contingency list by law that they're supposed to have to say this is what else we will use these funds for if all of these other projects are fully funded and we have more money.
All right. So the bottom line, every penny that's collected, and they are anticipating anywhere between $80 to $100 million just for the capital project sales tax. So over an 8-year period, they anticipate collecting that amount of money. And so the law says that every penny has to go to these 22, and once they fulfill that, then this 19, however they're rank ordered, they begin to get filled. Okay? That's the way it should have worked in 2014 as well. Didn't it? Any other questions on this? Please ask them now. Our time is your time. But I want you to have, because when we have these conversations outside of here, we can share accurate information and kind of again know where the town stands.
Come out with the list so we can see that list. They ain't got it yet, have they?
I think it is. So the last council meeting, I think they voted on the referendum on the 23rd.
That was the third reading, but the list is public. It's on their site.
So the list is out there. We'll get a copy and we'll post it on our website and Facebook page so you can see it. But that list is out there. I mean, you know, people asking for like Sanford. Sanford has always been in the running or in need, unmet need of water and sewer. And so I think that's on that list. Same thing with Brownsburg. So it's the needs of this county, especially in the rural area, is driving a lot of these things. Okay, but it should be, you're interested to see what's out there. Next slide. Okay, and again, same concept, unless you want to add something to, yes, ma'am.
So local option sales tax is a little bit different. This penny that's collected, 71% of of the total amount has to go to your taxes, to your property taxes, vehicle taxes, vote, what have you. 71% of that. So this is a good thing. However you may feel about everything else, but the loss is really a great concept. Georgetown County is one of only 3 counties in the state of South Carolina that does not have a lost ordinance in place. So that's Oconee, Georgetown, and somewhere else. Where's the other location? It is Greenville, surprisingly. So Greenville, Oconee, and Georgetown are the only counties without this. But this is a real big savings to all residents in Georgetown County. The other 29%, the county gets to decide how they get to use that funding. We don't know how they'll use it or what they're going to propose it'll be used for. We think we have some ideas, but that is the general idea of what the loss is. So there will be 2 separate ballot items, one for capital project sales tax and the other for the loss. So you get to decide yes or no for both, but I will tell you that this is a benefit to all citizens in Georgetown County. And that's just the section of the law where it comes from, and it's code section 4-10-10. And again, the part that's highlighted, this tax is imposed to reduce the property tax burden on persons in the county where the tax is imposed.
Okay, we're getting down to the last couple of slides. And I apologize, I did not get those slides into this thing to kind of give you, but I'll share it with you here. I know you can't see from back here. This photo captures the thing that's in highlighted and yellow and all that business. That's really just the block where the current town hall sits and where the library and the pavilion. So that used to belong to Andrews, the town of Andrews. Okay, so now the only thing we own is from this dotted line here is the town hall and the partially built building behind us. Back sometime, I don't know when, the town sold, for us who played basketball in there like I did back in the day, there was the old gym here with the pavilions. All the Smiths still thought he was the best player. Yeah, so.
Town hall now was our lunchroom back then.
And the town hall was a lunchroom, so yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the history of the town hall. And so that used to be the gym, and then I'm not sure what was, I guess all of that was the gym. The town sold this property, the land, to county for $1 where the pavilion sits, and then $5 for where the library. Today, the pavilion is assessed at, I used to have those figures in my head. Yeah, they come together. The library is assessed at 1.2 million. Yeah, check that. I think it's 1.2 million, and this thing is somewhere close to a million, if not over. Now you go to where we own our part, the town hall, and the 3,150,000 we're going to put into this building is only assessed at 229,000. So the pavilion right now is assessed. Who does the assessment? County. Why is that important? It's like your house. If your house is, if we keep it all clean up and nobody has all that, your house value will remain pretty high. But if a lot of bad things going on, then it'll be set low. And then if you try to get refinanced or whatever it is you're not going to get a whole lot of money because it's not going to, the value is low. So the value here of all, not just these properties, anything that the town of Andrews owns, is the value is low. So that if we have to go out and get a loan, we're not going to get a whole lot because the value right now is where it's set. This is one of many things that we have to be aware of when we are, as we do business, the government, the people too. This should not be happening, but this has been happening for a long time. In addition to this, since 1999, all of our hospitality taxes have been going to the county every year since '99, up until last year when we took it back. But that's somewhere in the neighborhood of about $60,000 to $80,000 a year that should be going toward our streetscape, maintaining Main Street, doing the things that we want to do, and not having to go to get a grant and hustle and bustle to try to get it. Those money's for that. But back during that time, we signed it off and sent it, and we got nothing out of it. So I say that to say that a lot of things is happening, and so it makes sense that folks over there got comfortable taking advantage of this town for a long time, and that's just a couple examples. But we brought that up to the county council on multiple occasions. The administrator, all of those folks know what concerns us. The fire department, who's been again covering 6 mile radius and beyond of the county's property, Big Dam, Kent, you name it, and some places in Williamsburg County, has been operating off of the same level of funding from Georgetown County for the last 5 years, probably longer. They won't give it an increase. $35,000 is nothing. To run that department, right now we're somewhere, I guess the budget, I don't know, it was 120, 130,000, whatever it is, somewhere between 120, 130,000 to provide the fire protection that people need. That has, an impact on your insurance and other things, and again, just your house to get there to help, and then all the other things they do it. So when folks see me out or council members fighting and because we've already had the conversation behind closed door around the table, and we just get, thank you for your time, enjoy the coffee we gave you, a bottle of water, and have a good day. Nothing changes. And so when you see me at a county council meeting or speaking out, we've already exhausted all of the diplomacy around the table, if you will, because they haven't moved. And so I say all that to say this is no different. So what I'm showing you right now, these are just pictures of, I'm gonna pass it around, these are just pictures of all of the black mold. Anybody ever used the bathroom in town hall? Yeah. So as my good friend, my fellow combat, a veteran right here, said, Andrews Town Hall was a part of the segregated school long time ago. That's how long it's been around. And then it became the DMV, where I got my license. It's a 15-year-old kid. And so its purpose, my only point for saying that its purpose is exhausted. It's no longer safe. Anytime now that there is a lightning storm, the building is struck. That large antenna that extends from the building that was a part of the communication system back in the day is now a lightning rod. And now there's 3 points that anchor that thing in place. One of them is over the police department that is now pulling out and causing a leak in it. So that's no longer really safe. We're gonna have to address that real soon. And that thing is, I don't know, 150, 200 feet up. If that, wherever that falls, it's gonna cause problems for somebody. So you have, so the bathrooms, I mean, the bathroom literally floods out in the men's bathroom there. These are old plywood walls, I mean, doors that, you know, this is probably all the privacy you're gonna get. Same thing in the ladies' room. Now, who is okay with their loved one working in a place that's filled with this kind of stuff? And we've already had it tested and all that business, and there's bad stuff in there as well, just like at the fire down at the Public Works. So for all those reasons and what the 2014 referendum laid out, we should not be in a lawsuit fighting for a decent place for our people to work. And not for them to just work, but for, not for them just to work, but for you to come and pay your water bill. I'm in there every day. And that's so I see the things, I experienced that, the employees do. There was whatever this thing was made from back in the day, all that's falling apart. Maybe a couple months ago, lightning hit. There's wires. I mean, just somebody, I don't know, it's probably somebody that with the level of knowledge and electricity like me that's put those things together, because fire started sparking over in the police department. So when they open up, see what's going on, these are wires just all connected, all kinds of way. It's bad. And then now the water's going through it. So imagine. So I'm trying to help you understand what the folks are dealing with every day. Years ago, 35 years ago, we moved the fire department out of there because it's, you know, back, everybody remember Mr. Clayton? You know, that was his, he didn't play about that fire truck. But it was there when he was there. And that's where our fire department was, but they moved them out. There was an agreement, leadership, and the county said, if you want the ambulance here, move the fire department back to the already dilapidated building that Public Works used to use. That was that long 6-bay building behind Town Hall where the partially built building sits right now. Well, they could only use, I think, maybe two bays in the classroom. Everything else had bad stuff. You couldn't inhale it because we used to treat our own, do all of our treatment stuff there. So when they abandoned that, all that stuff was there. That had to be removed. So we'll talk a little bit about when people start talking about $5.7 million for this building. That's not the case. The construction only costs a little less than $4 million. The rest of it is abating all of that bad stuff. So you got to go through that. And anybody ever went through abatement? It is expensive. Bringing guys in, it was so bad when they came in to test it, these guys had to come in the whole suit to get that stuff out of there. That's what you're seeing there. You'll see in the public and the fire department side where a lot of the some of the residue of that stuff is still there. So the abatement part of that, the demolition, there's a cost associated with that. The removal, and I think the concrete pad may have been, I don't know, it seemed like it was about 1.5 feet, I don't know, 18 inches maybe thick. So all of that had to be removed, ground prep, moving those trees, all that thing that goes in before you start to build a foundation is a part of that whole thing. Nobody thinks about it. They think that everything was going into the construction. There's a lot that happened, I think, for those who know. And so this slide, again, and I'll share these things. I've used these a few times. So back in the day, it was everybody was in there. So it's one continuous building. So if there's a fire in the police department, they're going to get burned on the front side of there, the customer service room. So it's all connected. So when you look at a structure like that, that's the whole concept, just modernizing what we try to do with the new building to ensure that everyone, the departments, And we call it an admin department, but the admin, the HR, is Ms. Wilson, Ms. Parson, and myself for all of the department. That's your admin that works for the departments. The departments don't have a separate admin. So when you hear the argument that, oh, McCleary is building himself a Taj Mahal, and no, McCleary, when he leaves, that's the town's property. I don't own anything in there. But it's building that for the future. And a couple of people that works for the water department, there's $150,000 that came from Senate staff and Senate Finance that covers that. So everything else is still to the people that falls under public safety. And you can't have a police department without its HR. Not just me, but the mayor is the supervisor for the public works. All of the department heads. So you can't build a structure and leave that's not how it works. So they confuse you when they start talking about this craziness, but preferably I'll let it come out. And I'll stop there on that part. So take a look at this. And again, it tells you on this slide, it kind of breaks down where all the money should have gone in the 5.7 or 5.2, whatever it is. And so you see the project management. So the contract vehicle that we use for this, which is common in Georgetown County and other places, do your design build. What that means is that you get one company that is your general contractor, and they hire all the subs to do all of the other specific things, electrical, walls, whatever it is that they do. In this case, one general contractor and 14 subs. Remember that. That'll come important here when we start talking about this lawsuit. So the project management fees was a little over 266, and the design of the building as well. That's a part of it. So the project management fees, a little over $266,000. Preparation fees, which include hazard material abatement allowance, the building demolition, site demolition and development, site landscaping, irrigation, and all that stuff is a part of the preparation. And then you have your construction costs, which again at 3.9. And then there was a contingency, 2.5% contingency built into that, which was a little over $130,000. Because again, when these monies were laid out, that was in 14. Here it is in 19 that we're now getting to the point where we were doing going through the procurement process. So that you'll see that on here, and it kind of lays that out. And so I wanted to frame where we are right now. Take a look at this. Is the handout that you got. So Ms. Parsons should have given you, if she did what she was supposed to do, she should have given you a trifold. And it has chronological dates and events that occurred from dating back to 2014, when this thing started. I was still serving in the military in the Middle East during that time, so I wasn't here. So all the stuff we're talking about with the new sales tax process, this occurred in 14 for the 2015 referendum. And that lays out everything that we did, we being the Andrews, staff, myself, to ensure that we get the funds that is specifically laid out in the 2014 referendum, which have to be in line with the South Carolina State Sales Tax Act. And from the South Carolina State Tax Act is born the Georgetown County 2028-14 or whatever that, an ordinance. So that ordinance have to mirror what's in the state law. So we just use state law as opposed to just a state act. But it tells us specifically these things for you to collect this money, which is a special sales tax. You have to follow this. Otherwise, you'll stay with the 6%, just like we do that they've applied here in South Carolina. But to get this, have this opportunity to do that, you must follow these guidelines. So if you look at that ordinance, it does merit. It did everything it was supposed to do. Great work by that staff back in 2014. One of the key things in that act, it says that Georgetown had an option, or any government had an option, was to either partially fund these projects or fully fund. When I say fully fund, that's everything I just talked about, from preparation, design, all of that is a part of the fully fund process. They chose, you read it for yourself, they chose to fully fund the 5 projects that were voted on. Now, what's different, what they did this time, they didn't do it in 14, they did a very good job at assessing, having the entities, everybody who applied for some of these things, we had to go back and say, okay, here's what we estimate these projects will cost. And we had to go do some work, get some, and again, it's a lot for, we could do it, but for the smaller entities, it's a lot for them to come up with these specifics, because a lot of time it involves engineering, which comes with money. But as an established municipality, we had some of those resources available. So we did our best guess. Unlike in 14, that process was not that elaborate. You'll look at the timeline, and when Andrews became engaged or was brought to the table to discuss on what they wanted. So everybody said they want a public safety building. And it will specifically say in that, say police and fire. No problem with that. But if you look at the organization structure and the way this building that we've been occupied for X amount of years, it is a contiguous one building. So all of that applies. And then your staff, which is again, the mayor, who is the supervisor, administrator who is hired to assist the mayor, and the clerk, town clerk, that's it. So that shouldn't be any fuss, but it is. So read that. So it's important that you read that these things are documented. These are not just enough days we pull out of here. This is what actually happened. This is how we addressed them. We went to them on multiple occasions saying, this is what and what it says specifically, because there was no legwork required and no analysis required back then. They threw numbers against all of these 5 projects and says, okay, for the Merle's Inlet dredging, I think it was 8 something million. And then they added another 2.3 million just to move all of the stuff they pulled out of the water. 2.3 million. And for the second one on the list was the Wynyard Bay dredging, which is Georgetown. That was estimated at 6 million. Grossly underestimated. And that's why that money is so sitting in a kitty somewhere. Because when it was really done and people started, Corps of Engineers, everybody started, they said, no, this is going to cost you probably close to 66 million. And here's the other thing they didn't think about, which they did this time. Anything like that, this money is only to purchase this project, not to maintain it. So with these 2 dredging situations, it's going to fill up again. And that's what has happened. And I've already seen in one case, the one in Merle's Inlet, they already put more money to it. So why would you go for a project that's going to require the maintenance that is not necessarily built into your budget? Because this money is not supposed to cover any maintenance, period. But they got $2.3 million to remove the dredging. Makes sense to me. Then number 3 of the 5 projects was Andrews. And that was the building we just described. And they estimated that at 1.5 million. I don't know where in the world that you're going to do all this work. You look at the preparation is going to absorb most of it. That's why in the ordinance that they wrote, it says that you got to fund these in priority, and every penny has to go to these projects before you move to the next one. For preparation, whatever that preparation, even if you had to purchase, if we didn't have any land and go somewhere else, that money had to go to that. That's clearly laid out. That's not an assumption. That is clearly laid out in the referendum that Georgetown wrote. And I told them they did a fine job. They just didn't follow it. And so it's there. So we should not be in the position where we are right now that we're going to talk about, because it's there. So you'll see on there in August, I don't know when it was, So we got to the point, we did everything we were supposed to do, we kept going back to them, hey, we're about to let this thing, because really what they wanted to do in 2020, they wanted to do another referendum then. But all of these on that original referendum had to already be under contract. So they were pushing us to go ahead and get a contract with that without telling us what the purpose was. And I knew that, but I'm like, my thing was, until you comply with what's in here, I'm not gonna move that fast. But we did, we got it done before then, but here's the kicker, you'll see the timeline, and it specifically says, this money is for these 5 projects, but you will see in 2019, October 2019, there was a ribbon cutting at the Ori Tech, a beautiful welding expansion onto the system, which again, that's another one of our high, employers, of, large number of people, a lot of folks well. I think it's a good idea, but this money, this $1.5 million shouldn't have gone from this pot. That's against the law, and it specifically says that in both documents. But we didn't fight that. We don't. That's not an issue, because you still had $41 million to fulfill the needs of these 5 projects. And that's all we were saying. We're not here to cause any problem. We just want you to do what's right by Andrews. Because if you go back to that study that we talked about that kind of laid out the vision and plan, it says that Andrews is spending $4.3 million in food outside of the city of Andrews, the town of Andrews. So if we want to start talking about where our tax dollars are going, it's in Georgetown, Burlington, that's where Walmart is. I just spent a ton of money over there the other night in Walmart. So we are contributing. Don't ever think that you're not, because if it's not here, we're spending it somewhere else. And that was just in food. Clothing, and all these other things, another almost $3 million. So we're spending the money is here. People are buying. You see these food trucks, they run out of food all the time. But we like to eat. It happens. So don't ever think that we are less than where the people are in Walkmart. Walkmart has right at 100 citizens. The rest of them, people come in from, summer. We're here all the time. So we're putting our money into this county. So we should never feel less than somebody else because, it's Walkmart or Walkmart neck and we're just saying, never allow that, because you're spending your money somewhere. You got to stand on that. So you'll see that in here. So what happened, so the contract, every dime we got, and the money came from the county. They gave us up front. They tried to nickel and dime us. They gave us the 1.5 million. After we let the contract, you'll see the timeline. We told them that's not enough. Here's the contract. We communicated this with you. We need the rest of the money. Later on, you see another 1.5 million showed up without any action from county council. It just whoever was pulling the strings back then, there was another 1.5 million showed up, so we got 3 million. You still 2.7 short. Here it is. So the leadership changed out at some point. The new leadership came in. We went to that leadership, sat down around the table. Mr. Carter was there with us. Okay, you guys are going to do the right thing, because you see the money. There's every invoice has been paid. Everything is documented. So Andrews is not keeping the money for ourselves. It's going to these contractors. All that's documented. The process to procure this thing was done right. If it wasn't, you'd have a contractor that stopped the process and protested. It didn't happen. And that's another whole conversation. But they stopped the money. And so the current chairman of the county council, we finally got something in writing from him after we keep going over and over and said, well, we believe that we've met our obligation. Well, I'm not interested in what you believe. I'm interested in what this law says. And we just got to ignore it from that point on. Then a short time after, look at your timeline, they went and declared that the rest of the money, which was $16 million, uncommitted, and said this is a surplus money. And what does that mean? Surplus money, that means that you fulfilled all of these projects, all 5 of them have been fully funded. the seven substation fire stations that you put around the county, that is, I don't know if any of them are in operation. Maybe one or two, the rest of them are just holding equipment. That could have come to Andrews. But you still got 16 million, and you're telling us no. So we, the people who work in these bad conditions, are not worth the tax money that we will put into this county, that you've taken our hospitality funds for the last 20 plus years. Where's the fairness? That you devalued our property. So how much more of this can we take before Andrew sinks, is what I'm talking to. You know, that's the conversation we have with him. And so we filed a lawsuit. And I don't know what date that was. We filed a lawsuit only asking for the monies that you have, and nothing out of your general fund. Again, Andrews fund budget is less than $4 million. The county is always 100 million, and then they get 50 some odd million in grants. So why are you picking on the little guys? And so that's what stole this thing. Now, when you stop the money and you won't allow this thing to go to court, then we have a general contractor and 14 subcontractors that has already done work. We've already exhausted the $3,150,000. There's no more money. These guys want to get paid for the work they've done. So if you remember, I don't know, it was last year, the guys waited, was it 22? 22. The guys waited, they waited as long as they could, and they said, okay, now the subcontractors started filing lawsuits against the general contractor. Well, we're partners on this thing, well, not partners, but that's our contract. So it's gonna have an impact on Andrews. So these guys, and they know this is all in the paper. Andrews won't pay the bills. No, we can't pay them because you're holding on to it. But nobody tells that part of the story. Nobody cares. So what do? Council come together, we said, okay, because we use our money effectively, we have money in a that we didn't want to put toward this thing. But here we have money over here to take care of it. It's $919,000 that we had to pull out of pocket to satisfy what we were told then, $919,000 that was given to them in time enough to do what they were supposed to pay these subcontractors. And county still hasn't budged. To my mind, you're trying to break us for that. You know, we're not going to let that happen. Now, so we took care of that. So of course, everybody now wants to have their own money. So I'll talk just briefly because this next piece here is that now that the general contractor decided that 2 of the 14, there were some issues with their work. Unbeknownst to us, and they wouldn't pay these guys the money that we've already given them. The $919,000 there. Again, these guys were patient. They waited. They could have, started that process when the paper stopped. So they took them to court. And as a part, when you're a part of a contractor, then that now you have a shared legend, potentially have a legal responsibility, whether that money is coming from Georgetown County Council or from the White House. You got to make sure that money is there. So as a part of this, suing the general contractor said, well, we're going to do a cross claim and say, Andrews, you partly responsible for this. And so we got tagged with that. Now we believe that there's and so I won't get into trouble here. Am I still on point? All right, stop me if I get ahead of myself. So again, as a part of that, it's cross claim. So right there, it's like, hey, well, we have to get out here and fight to try to, we weren't going to pay these guys because they didn't do the work that they say they did. in my opinion, we should have had a say in that, but that's another. But the bottom line is we got that special purpose judge said, okay, yep, you got to respond for it. So now we got to go through the process, appeal that, and get our money. Make sure that we're not held liable for what the general contractor decision was, and that's where we are right now. But again, this should not have been to this point. Our history for the last 10 years have shown that we can manage our funds, we do what we're supposed to do with it. But when you partner with somebody else, and they have the key to the purse, you can't control it. And that's where we are. So we'll have to deal with that. Mr. Carter, anything you want to? It's just that we'll fight just like we fight everything else.
Well, let me just kind of tag in a little bit with what you were saying about, there was an issue about whenever because we were at a stage where we're still working on our lawsuit against the county, as the mayor indicated, that when the subcontractors, when we were forced to stop work on the building, a lot of the subcontractors has done a lot of work. Some of them completed their projects, and some of them completed it to a point to where they couldn't go any further because more work had to be done. The subcontractors then sued their general contractor, and in the process of suing their general contractor, the general contractor said, in essence, hey, I paid you guys everything that, for the work that you've done up to the point to where the owner of the project is no longer able to pay any money. And if the owner of the project is unable to pay any monies, we can't pay to go any further. So I think about three of the subcontractors that had filed a suit against the general contractor said, as with anybody else, well, I'm going to bring in the party into this lawsuit with me who's supposed to give me money. And they brought us in. In the process of doing that, of course, they alleged that they had a contract with us, which is true that they had a contract with us, the general contractor, that in their contract with us, we did not complete the contract because the funds dried up. The special referee judge that the mayor indicated to you indicated that the general contractor owed the subcontractors for money. And in the process, because they owed the subcontractors, the special master referee, and not in our Georgetown case, Andrews versus Georgetown, but in the subcontractors versus the contractors lawsuit, the special referee said, well, Town of Andrews, you all had a contract with the contractor who had a contract with the subcontractors. The special referee held that we are in debt to the contractor, and that we're in debt to the contractor for supposedly breach of contract, which we maintain that there's not been a breach because, as far as we're concerned, the contract was still going on. Because the special referee issued a decision that we are in breach because we're not going forward with the contract, it is my position that what we're going to do is appeal that one decision. But at this point, as far as that is concerned, that is what the mayor was telling you about. When somebody else controls your money, if they do something to you, it causes or create a ripple effect. And the ripple effect will touch anybody else down the line. In this particular case, the ripple effect went from the county not giving us our money, and of course, if they don't give it to us, we don't have the money to pay the contractor. If we don't pay the contractor don't have money to pay the subcontractors. That in turn is the ripple effect from us. And as a result of that, we're in a position where we're now, by court order, ordered to pay the contractor additional monies so that the contractor can satisfy his obligations with the subcontractor. I disagree with it. We're going to appeal that decision by the special referee, and no matter what, in the end, when we get our case heard with the Georgetown case, we anticipate any judgment given to us will be a judgment that will take care of or resolve any of the contractor or subcontractor's obligations. Any monies owed by the contractor to the subcontractor, any monies owed by the town to the contractor, all of that will be resolved when we get our case heard with Georgetown County. So, and I'm sort of giving it to you in a nutshell, like kind of way, because that's the status of where we are. So at this point, as the mayor indicated, because of these obligations, we're now under the gun of owing monies to the contractor. And because we're owing monies to the contractor pursuant to a judgment, we now have to deal with the person who, or the entity that has not given us our money. In this particular case, which is Georgetown County. Hopefully we'll make it to court before the end of this year. I feel comfortable about it because we have several different court dates between now and the end of the year, and hopefully we'll get our matter heard. The mayor indicated that we filed our lawsuit in September 19th of 2021. And here we are approaching 3 years, and politics has kept us from getting to court. But we're at a point now where there's nothing else they can do but at least have the matter heard.
Yes, sir.
So if I understand it correctly, just to make sure I've got this. So the town is being technically sued by the subcontractor, or the town's being sued technically by GMK?
GMK.
Contractor, GMK.
So now
GMK.
GMK's got a lawsuit against the town?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
That's what was heard, that was heard by the special purpose. Yeah. And again, that's, if you look up cross,
No, that's fine. No, that's fine.
so if you look up cross claims action, that's a claim against a party on the same legal side of illegal action. So if you go into contract with somebody else, you can be held responsible. If they fail to do what they're supposed to do, you can be held theoretically responsible. But again, none of this should have happened and still does not have to happen, because even out of that 16 million, they took 7 million of that and gave each council member $1 million to go do their own special project. Yes, ma'am.
Whenever the case is solved, will we have enough money to pay the contractor and complete the building?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yeah. Because we're going to ask for all of the loss that everything that we applied to it, we're asking for that back. And that's how it's laid out in the original lawsuit. So we've asked for all that back.
Well, Mr. Mayor, one more thing I want to add. You heard the mayor say earlier that whenever one party does something that affects the other party, it ripple goes downhill. I sort of lost my train of thought now. But what we're going to be doing, oh no, I know what it is. The mayor started telling you about this new project that the county is trying to put out for their capital pending sales tax. That they're following all of the rules. They're being strict in going about it. If you designate $1 million to dig ditches, you have to, and you indicate you're going to fully fund it, you got to apply that money toward whatever it is that you're designating it for. They're following the strict rules in this upcoming capital penny sales tax. Well, in the last one, they should have done the exact same thing, followed the rules. So they really did learn from us suing them. The problem now is they're just going forward with the lawsuit because they're counting on politics standing in the way of them paying us our monies, okay? So they're following the strict rules this time, but nobody followed the strict rules the last time for the 2014 the referendum was in 2014. Nobody followed the rules. When the monies came in, they still didn't follow the rules. This time, they're strictly following it. So the question now is, we need to get into court so a judge will say, this is the same rule. This is the same rule you're following now. Why didn't you follow it back then? If they followed it, our project would have been completed. We would have had the money to do everything that we wanted to have done. We'd be in our new building. I suspect the thing that we're in now would be gone, would not be there. So our main thing even when we came to council meetings and people showed up to fight, and I never got angry at them because I knew they just did not understand what was going on. And we're happy that you all are here so that you know that all we're talking about, the only thing we're asking the county for, or that we ask and are still asking, and now we're asking the court to do it, is to make them follow the rule of law. The statute that's in the South Carolina Code sections, they have to follow that statute and put it in their own town ordinance and follow it. And not only must they follow that statute, and they can just stop right there following the statute. But they went further in their ordinance and say, and we will fully fund all of our projects in the order that we got them in. And they just totally ignored it. As the mayor said, this time they're pledging to follow it, and they're probably going to follow it because they see what a mess they got, the county and us in now. So I hope everybody understands, and I don't mind answering some basic questions about it. I don't want to get into any attorney-client privilege stuff, while my lawsuit is still going on. But I don't mind answering any basic questions. Okay? Sorry about that, Mayor.
No, I appreciate that. But yes, so again, even right now, $7 million going to your pet projects, there's still $6 million sitting up from these dollars from this $41 million. It's not going to cost them anything, and it's not their money. It is not from their general funds or anything that it is from the people's money that should go to these projects. It's that simple.
What's gonna happen to that $6 million dredging fund?
I don't know. We're watching it. I don't know. Because and I won't use that term, but now they've surplused it. It could be used for anything, but I'm sure the city of Georgetown would probably have, something to say about that because it was allocated for the dredging, but $6 million is not going to do anything to create, because of the thought behind that was that they were going to dredge it enough where you can get some big ships coming in and kind of that would have been a mini port for commercial crafts to come through. And, then the steel mill is going to get back up on its feet. The Andrews bypass is going to be a part of this grand plan, and none of that is materialized. So it makes no sense. And that's why, we constantly engage with whomever to help them understand what's going on.
Mayor, in our lawsuit, against the county, with what we're suing for, that this all occurred obviously back in back in 2014 when the
Ordinance was
passed.
Mm-hmm.
But the cost of material from then to now, obviously inflation, if this lawsuit goes through in favor of the town, is there still enough money to cover that inflation for the material that's going to be required to finish that project?
Yeah,
The answer is yes. The answer
yes.
would be yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
yeah, that's built in there for all inflation, which it's just
Let me add one more thing. Now, for those of you that have ownership in property, you probably realize that from 2014, and just hypothetically speaking, your house was worth $1,500 in 2015. And now, from 2014, 15 to 2019 and 20, for some reason, just before COVID, the value of your house or your dirt or your land, it just went really high. And when that occurred, people started selling one tree they sold it for $1 before, now they're selling it for $5 or $6. Well, the same thing when it comes to, building products or buying metal or buying nails or buying boats or buying steel. Everything just went through the roof. It was completely out of our control. Georgetown had this ordinance that they passed, capital gains sales tax. They got this money that they got to do something with. And the thing they got to do is the thing they put in the ordinance. Follow that ordinance. And they have to follow that ordinance, especially and I'm referring to our project as a small project. It's small compared to that dredging. They knew the dredging was out of the question. They were trying to collect $27 million, was it?
28.
$28 million originally. And lo and behold, y'all spent a lot of money. People driving through the county spent a lot of money. They collected $41 million. So they had way more than enough to take care of the small projects. And it's just that, you know, that then leadership and maybe still now, just, you know, I don't like the people of Andrew. Well, I don't know if that's the case now. But they're just not committed to giving us, you know, we're Georgetown County. Okay, you all are Georgetown County. Georgetown County folk, you're part of the county. They should be giving you everything it takes to build your, as they want to refer to it as, police fire station. Your municipal government building, police fire station. I mean, there's just no reason for them not to do it. I mean, never mind not wanting to do it, but there's just no reason. Sorry, Mayor.
All right, well, we got to wrap up. But that's kind of where we are. That doesn't stop what we got going on with all of the other projects. Those are funded. Our budget is set, so we'll continue on that part, and then we'll continue to fight this on the other end. We're in good shape right now. We don't want them to know that, but we certainly are. But I wanted you to know. And so if you got the ear of our two reps, anybody else, stop playing games. You got to hold them accountable. Just like you hold us, you got to hold them accountable. Yeah. Because politicians don't listen to politicians. It's the people.
You consider the politician?
No, sir, I'm a leader, but I tell you what, it doesn't drag me. It's muddy. It gets ugly. Yeah, it gets ugly. He said, you consider yourself a politician? Not really. Spent too much time in the military for that. But that's where we are. And if we don't fight or stand our ground on these kind of things, then we will continue to get rolled over. They still have not, done anything with the value of the property. We're still going to sell them because that is obviously unfair for a pavilion to be worth more than town hall and a doggone $33 million into a building. Don't make any sense to me. Our water tower, where that water tower sits, that's almost a whole block, $5,000. 5,000.
That's bad.
The baseball field, 1.2 million. That's the county's property. So if you don't see it, you don't let these folks know that we know what's going on. It's not going to change. And if it's just me out there, rowing in one direction and rowing the other, it's not going to change. So appreciate the time. And still, I'll be available for any questions. But that's kind of where we are, and we'll continue to move forward. And yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make an announcement if you don't mind, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. It's on you.
You were talking about communication earlier. A few people here in the community, we've gotten together and we started ACC, Andrew's Calendar Committee, and we have our next meeting August the 6th at 9 o'clock at Town Hall. And we need some more volunteers. And the purpose of our committee is to come together and make a calendar because everyone is not on Facebook. So what we are asking the community to give us information of things that will be happening in the town. We will come to make a calendar, and we will give one copy to each church because we don't have our own funding, and let the churches make the calendar for their church members and anybody else who want to make it. So if you want to be a part of this committee, please meet us on August 6th at 9 o'clock. Town Hall.
So the first 5 people that pass you, they're going to volunteer.
Sam, will you volunteer?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, man.
I'm not from the country, okay?
Lincoln.
I'm from Santee.
Oh, my bad.
Okay?
Mosquito land.
No.